Hey YouTube, this isn't exactly yard work, but I don't know, my boat's in my driveway, which is my property, kind of counts as a yard. So today I'm going to be trying to get my boat running, and if all goes well, I may even get it in the water later today. So first step is to drop your sockets on the ground, and then put them back together. So I got that done. So next step is to replace the gear lube in the lower unit. So the way you do this, there's two screws, the upper and the lower. So you take the lower out first, and nothing will really come out because the top one is still in, so no air can get in. So you can see a little bit drips out, but not much. And then when you open the top one, there we go, comes right out. Now you have to hook the pump up to the bottom one, pump the gear oil in until it starts coming out the top. Then you put the screw on the top, and you unscrew the pump and put the screw in the bottom. Yep, there we go. Yikes. Alright. So you put the top screw in. Hopefully. This engine doesn't create very many metal shards, but who knows? God, getting all over the place. That part is done.
Okay, the next step is to uncover the boat, hook up the new battery I bought, put in the gas tank, and see if I can get the engine to start. Okay, the gas and the battery are good to go. Boat motors are cooled by the water you are driving in, so to start them on land, you need to hook up a hose to a special adapter that floods the water intake on the bottom of the engine. I'm having trouble starting it, and I think the reason might simply be that I didn't put enough gas in the tank. I cranked it for a while and it almost started a bunch, but it just wouldn't stay running. At this point, I poured the boat's gas back into the gas can I got it from and went and filled up the boat's 6-gallon tank at the gas station. I also put in 12 ounces of Seafoam engine cleaner to hopefully get the inside of the engine nice and clean. Yes, that amount of smoke is normal. I had fogged the cylinders when I packed the boat away last year. Also, it's a 2-cycle engine, and it's almost as old as me. All that adds up to tons of smoke when you start it up for the first time each season. Okay, the engine's running smoky, but pretty good, so task accomplished. On to the next thing. The next step is to check the navigation lights on the boat and make sure they're working. White in the back, red and green in the front, all very bright LED lights. Everything looks good. Next, we need to get the horn working. First, you screw on the trumpet, then you need to take the hose off the compressor and put a few drops of oil in there and let it sit for a few minutes. If you're wondering why I have such a significant horn on such a tiny little boat, it's because I regularly go through the locks on the Mystic and Charles Rivers in Boston, and the way to signal that you need to go through is by beeping very loud. And the operators have trains and highways and airplanes buzzing around, so you really need to be very loud to make sure they hear you. And they definitely hear me. Okay, I let it sit for a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to hit the horn button with the hose disconnected to spray out any excess oil. Then I'll reconnect the hose and hit the button again, and I should get a very loud horn.
That's very loud. And now we get. Alright guys, it's day 2 because I ran out of time yesterday, but tried to pick up where I left off. In this case, that would be the hub because the cap fell off last year. So I need to take the hub off, clean out the dirty grease, put in some new grease, put the wheel back on, put the cap back on, and then check the tire pressure on both tires. Your trailers always lose air, so your trailers almost always need air in their tires. I'm going to jack it up with a floor jack, so I hooked it up to the truck to make sure the trailer doesn't go anywhere, because that would be not fun. Alright, let me get going here.
If you're curious, the boat and trailer combined weigh about 1,900 pounds, probably more like 1,800 pounds here without all the gear inside. The hub on a trailer is held in place by a hand-tight nut, and that nut is held in place by a cotter pin, and the whole thing is covered in a very thick grease that gets everywhere. So you remove the pin with needle nose pliers, then you unscrew the nut with regular pliers and clean everything up.
Covered in grease, as it should be. There go the bearings.
If I were fully rebuilding these hubs, I would soak all of these parts in degreaser, then soak them all in acetone to clean off the degreaser, and then repack them all with fresh grease, but I don't think that's necessary here. Also, pay no attention to the extra block of wood that has appeared on top of the jack. I needed a little more height. I also threw a jack stand under there just in case, more to protect the axle than me since I was not going under the trailer.
key to this bolt is you're supposed to tighten it until the wheel gets...
So when I'm assembling a trailer hub, I tighten the nut until it's firm, but the wheel still spins freely. Then I unscrew it a tiny bit so that the pinholes in the nut line up with the pinhole on the axle. Then I reinsert the cotter pin and cover it all with grease. The more grease the better, especially for trailers that regularly go underwater.
A little bit too tight, so I'm going to back it up just 1/6 of a rotation. And that feels perfect. It's not wobbling at all, which is just how we want it. Now we put the pin back in. Bend the back over.
I've ruined a bunch of these caps trying to install them. So what you don't do is just hit it directly with a hammer, and you don't use a screwdriver to try to tap in the edge. What you're supposed to do is use a piece of 2-inch PVC pipe and a scrap of wood and hit that. What you're seeing now is me beating one of the caps to death until it's ruined. Then I take the other cap and I use my bench grinder to give it a very slight beveled edge. This is not in the video. You're not supposed to need to do this, but I've already destroyed 3 caps trying to hammer them in directly, and this is the last one I have. Eventually, I do get it in there. Okay, this is the point where it finally slips in properly. Some grease squeezes out, so I just smear it all over the cap for a tiny bit of extra corrosion protection. I had a feeling installing this cap might be the hardest part. I left out a lot of failed hammering. But now that it's done, I can drop the trailer and move on to the air pressure. Now I'm going to pump up both tires to 50 psi. They were both at about 45 psi, which wasn't too bad. It's a 12-volt pump that plugs into my truck, so I had to do some parking acrobatics to get it close enough to each tire. Okay, on to my least favorite part, cleaning the boat. It's a small boat, but it has so many little edges and small surfaces and tight spaces, it's a huge pain to clean. But I grab a scrub brush, a bottle of deck cleaner, and just get to it. I time-lapsed the entire process for you so you don't have to suffer like I did. While it is a pain, it works really well. The boat is always very filthy when you take the cover off every season. And once you scrub it down, it's gleaming white and great to walk around on barefoot. Okay, just a few quick things left to do. First is install the fire extinguisher.
Which is hard to do with a camera in your hand. Alright, there we go.
Next, I install the ropes and bumpers. Then I pack all the life jackets into the front storage bays. There used to be seat cushions in the bow, and if I ever have time, I want to make new replacement cushions. Okay, the last step is to check the trailer lights. I rewired the trailer with a new harness and all new lights last summer, so as expected, they're working great.
They're actually a lot brighter in person than they are on video. Alrighty.
Okay, I'm here at the public boat ramp on the Charles River in Newton, Massachusetts. With a boat this small, it's pretty easy to launch by yourself. This ramp has a lot of issues, but it does get you in the water, and that's the important part. And the water isn't too dirty, so it's okay to get your feet wet. If I were on the Mystic River, I would not be stepping in the water at all. But I'd be launching about an hour closer to the city by water. Alright, that was great. I went down to the end of the Charles River, out the locks and into the inner harbor for a bit, then back up to Newton. Everything went well, and I can't wait till the next time I get to go out. For anybody that's interested, the boat is a 15-foot ThunderCraft speedboat from 1984. The engine is a 1989 Mercury 90 horsepower outboard. The boat has been in my family since the late 80s. We used to use it on a small lake in New Hampshire, but about 12 years ago I moved the boat home to Massachusetts, and now I use it around Boston. It's so much fun. I hope you liked this not quite yard work video. I'll see you later.